Hi guys, this is Mark Shawson, the Pattern Trader, doing a little yard work ahead of jumping on the next session of the Master Pattern Trader live sessions. These are sessions that I conduct every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I delve into all of the markets in real time. There's been a lot of things going on in the markets this week. As I've been discussing for the last several weeks, we are at a major inflection point for the US dollar, so I expect to cover that in a great deal of detail. Also going to look at the pound New Zealand, the stock of Facebook, which I've been long for the last couple of weeks, gold, silver, and many other markets. So I hope you guys can make it. Taking a look at this weekly chart of the Nasdaq that is making new highs week on week, but trees don't grow the sky. Now, I may or may not, be predicting the end of this bull market, but it looks like we could have a significant turn. And, I just look at price action. I look at how, prices pivot around a certain area. So you can see that earlier in the week, we went, higher. We made a new high, then we kind of started coming through unchanged, and now, this is Friday, the last day of the week. This is a weekly chart. So these bars are weekly bars, and so I kind of look at how prices behave, and, this may be very early, but, I like to, look at turns, and, when something makes a new high and then starts coming through unchanged, and then now we're into Friday and we're a lot lower, chances are that, we could be, coming under this area right here also. Not quite sure what that low of last week is, but we're pretty close. So we could be looking at what I call an outside reversal, where we go to new highs above last week and then below the low. And I'm looking at a couple of stocks. I'll talk about them in a minute, notably Amazon, that are starting to flash some, bearish signs, or they're looking like they're lagging. Amazon has always been a proxy. Whatever the Nasdaq looked like, Amazon, looked like, and now it's starting to diverge. People always ask me about correlations, and this is why correlations. I mean, Amazon was correlating, but now it's diverging. So, quite frankly, I am starting to, get short some of these positions. I was in Facebook this week. I warned our elite members yesterday to leg out of that. I had some call options that were expiring today. I got squishy yesterday, legged out of them, made some profits, and now I'm on to something else. So again, I'm observing this turn. What I've always said is that, it's hard for me to imagine the market crashing, from these levels, just because of these reversals. And when I say a key reversal, it's when a market makes a new low in this case, and then closes on the high of the week. And it did this all, through this uptrend. So basically, with all of these key reversals underpinning, it was hard for me to see the market going down. But now we're at a critical juncture, and maybe we just pull back to this support line, which would be, not much in context with this huge bull market, but it could be, a nice piece, if we get in early. And so this is what I try and do, try and see, some turns, and then look at price action. Now, this isn't completely, just because we have one key reversal, it's not completely indicative. I mean, we could have some follow through next week, and then, comes back up, and then we go and make a new thing, and that maybe we have a collection. So, not quite sure how to, kind of present this, but I'm just, showing you what I'm looking at. And when something starts turning, around this, unchanged area, and again, ultimately we have to see where we close. This is just in the middle of the day. So right now it looks pretty bad, but if, we end up, charging by the end of the day and closing up there, it's going to have a completely different look, and it won't even be a reversal. So that's always, something I want to be cautious of. Let me go to the daily. We can see that we've now got an outside reversal going on the daily chart also. And, this is what, kind of started to, pricked my attention, today, where it looked like we were going to take out today's low and have an outside reversal. And again, I throw around a lot of slogans and jargon and whatever, and you may not know what I'm talking about, but you can see that today we made a new high over yesterday. We just took out yesterday's high just by a little bit, and now we reversed, and now we're also taking out yesterday's low. So yesterday was kind of what I call a coil bar, an inside bar, where you see this, this energy being built up. And you can see that we just stalled out. We made a new high, and then, 4 days later, we can't make a new high anymore. And the market looks like it's stalling. And when something stalls, it can quickly go into reverse. And we can get, a good amount of energy. I mean, this may not be the end of the bull market, but, if we get a nice move here, and you've got to play on it, it could work out, fairly good. But right now, it's just hard to handicap this thing. This is still a bull market until proved otherwise. We've kind of got this long-term uptrend line, and sometimes you sneak below, fake everybody out, and then it goes and makes a new move higher. So it's very, very premature. Put it this way, I don't really see this as something that would end this entire huge market. I mean, I would still have to see something, go here and then do something like this and create some pattern. So right now, I'm just a little bit leery, that we may just have some downward pressure, but we may not. This has been a very stealth bull market going up with, very orderly. These bars have not been huge, which means there's not a lot of volatility. There's not a lot of speculation. There may be some complacency. When you get complacency, maybe you need to wake somebody up and, have a, bit of a downturn before you go up. And sometimes when you break out, you do come back and, re-challenge certain areas. So, frankly, anything's possible here. Maybe I shouldn't have even accentuated what I'm looking at, but we may see some kind of pullback to this uptrend line at some point. But, every time the market looks lower, it puts itself back together again. And this may be another, occasion where, if we look back, by the end of today, maybe it turns around. So anything's possible. And I'm going to share with you a couple charts I'm looking at in the stock market, notably in Amazon, which is really started to flash some interesting warning signs, if you will. So this is Amazon. Let me just AMZN. It was a proxy for the Nasdaq. It used to kind of correlate almost 1-to-1 with the Nasdaq. But you can see as the Nasdaq's been making new highs, Amazon is well off its July highs, where it topped out over 2,000, and now we're trading $300 lower. So about 15% lower, even though the Nasdaq's trading at the all-time highs. So, again, these divergences, and you can see all the way back in July, it started off with this double top price pattern. And a double top to me is, exactly what it sounds like, where market goes to an all-time high, backs off the high, re-challenges, and then when you come through now, both these peaks do not have to be symmetrical. One can be higher, the second one can be higher, in this case it's lower, it doesn't matter. When we look at it, it looks like a letter M. And once it pierced this neckline, which is simply the line drawn through the pattern, that indicated a breach of that double top reversal pattern, and that's exactly what happened. It just threw this market into reverse. And now we kind of have this, head and shoulders looking thing. Now, I'm aware that you could get faked out here. We're right at this neckline, but we're short of it. So sometimes, markets will stop short. It'll look very bearish. And if it doesn't come through here, it doesn't really confirm. And then sometimes it can turn into a trap. And so, I'm watching it very carefully here, but this looks by and large pretty ominous. So, we have this kind of downtrend line, whatever you want to, we have a bit of a triangle here. And this is kind of where traps occur, where this is what silver did a few months ago, where It looked like it was tracking within a descending wedge. It kind of stops, and then it kind of gets a push. And then if it comes out here, we're aware that the whole thing is a trap. So, this clearly is an area to watch. Does it hold here, or does it keep pushing toward the lower end of this triangle? And if it does, it's going to start confirming, what could be, a big bear pattern. We have this double top, head and shoulders, descending triangle. And so this 1700 area is, going to be critical. And so I'm going to be watching this area. And right now, there doesn't look like there's anything that will support prices right here. There's nothing to suggest that this is going to, turn into a trap, but, that's what traps are. They lay the layer, and you got a little reversal here. So sometimes they stop short, and then, they start, getting some levitation. So this is just something to put on your radar, AMZN. The options are very expensive. And so it may be an expensive place, but again, I'm also looking at this as, a barometer of the health of the underlying Nasdaq. Obviously this was a key, part of it, part of the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. And you can see that, we're starting to get a bit of a divergence going on there. Now, earlier this week, I was looking at Facebook. I was, pretty bullish on it, and I kind of got a little hesitant because I had all of these call options which expire today. So obviously, playing a bit of Russian roulette there. I made a very nice profit, and I said thank you very much. And I'm just gonna see how we kind of play. It still feels to me like there's another push to the upside here, but it's also kind of stalling out at the highs, and we'll see. So this is Facebook. This is an upward trending stock. We had this inverted head and shoulders. You were playing right around this neckline a couple of weeks ago, where I started advising our members to take a poke at the long side around 192, 195. Then last week we closed right at the apex of this symmetrical triangle, and in my Sunday newsletter I said, put a buy stop at 195.37, and then a couple days later you just fell short of 200. So if you had a nice $5 profit, I kind of advise maybe taking some partial profits at this point, because you can see that we made a new high, but 1, 2, 3, 4 days later we're still kind of stalling here. But not to say that this thing can't push. You've got this coil yesterday where you have this inside bar, and you kind of, just like the Nasdaq, took out the high, and let's see. I mean, I don't know if it fails. It doesn't look like this should turn into a failure. This still feels like there's some strength here. This still feels like this should have pushed somewhere in this area, but it's obviously a key area here. And again, I can't quite make the case for a top, but let's see when all is said and done. And sometimes when I'm ambivalent, just wait till the market shows you. Let's see where this thing closes. And again, if we start taking out today's high at some point, maybe I'll jump back long. So right now I'm out. I'm just watching it, and we'll see what happens. Another stock that's been on my radar for quite some time is IBM, and I wanted to short it today. I'm kind of pissed. I just was a little bit hesitant because this can kind of play around longer than we think, but this thing's going to go down. I've been saying for a couple weeks, I've been talking about IBM, and this kind of looks like Tesla before it crashed from 300 to 180. To my mind, this has to go down. This looks like a one-legged stool. And what do I mean by one-legged stool? So, here is the pivot that launched this whole thing. But to me, it doesn't look sustainable. It's like kind of having a stool, with one leg. Eventually, it's just going to tip over because it can't support it. You have some 300-pound guy sit on this one-legged stool, and it's going to tip over. And this is what this looks like. To my mind, if I see a bottom, I want to see some kind of base. If I saw this, then very well, let's watch this thing go. But this is just a one-legged stool, and now you've got all this weight hanging on this one thing, and eventually that weight's going to give. It's gonna give. I just feel prices have to come, back under this 125 area, but it could take its sweet time. And bought some options last week, and I was early, and I ended up losing some money on it because I'm just early. But again, if you want to short the stock and just tuck it away, I don't see how you're going to get hurt. You have this double top here, kind of this triple top, this kind of descending triangle looking thing. And here's the little trap here. So this is what happened, is that you kind of get under here, and then every time it kind of baits you into shorting it at that thing, and because you have these support, and so I don't know when this thing is ready to go. I short it, any good rally is probably worth shorting, as you had today, where it opened up about 70 cents and now it's failing. And I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know if we hold or we just go a little sideways before we go, but ultimately this thing's coming down. It's just the law of physics, the law of what charts look like. And this is kind of what Tesla looked like before it, kind of broke its neckline at like whatever it was, 250, and broke to 180. And this is what this feels like to me. So, kind of some, red flags going on in the market. And so kind of watching it, carefully. I've kind of shorted the QQQs today. The QQQs are just a proxy for the Nasdaq. If the Nasdaq goes down, you'll make money. If it doesn't, you'll lose. And so I bought some options expiring end of next week. Next week is Thanksgiving, so it's a short week. So kind of dangerous to do anything, because you're going to have shortened sessions and not as much time. I also bought some puts on Apple. Apple has made new highs, and doesn't make any sense to short into strength. But again, this looked like it was running out of energy, where you made a new high here, and then 1, 2, 3 days you're kind of failing. There's no just no follow through. And then yesterday you had this inside bar. You had this coil bar. And what I mean by an inside day is that the range from high to low, you can see this range here, was inside the high and low of the previous day. So to me, that just, is pent up energy. It's building energy. And then when you uncoil out of that, it, can pick up. And now you can see we're making new lows under yesterday. So we're coming out of this inside bar to the downside. So I bought I went in so quickly. I bought the 257.5 puts expiring next week. And again, this is new highs, and it's kind of crazy to, sell new highs, but, who knows? So I think, maybe you could get a pullback to, this uptrend line or something like this. This is clearly just a gamble. This is just a gamble. This stock is making new highs. It's the strongest on the board. And I just think that you could get a quick thrash through here. I'm going to take my money and run whatever kind of follow through I get. And, let's kind of see what happens. So, I might be premature. Don't want to call the end of the bull market here, but, we could be getting tired and just overdue just for a reaction, retracement. And I'm going to take my money and run very quickly. If I get some kind of decent follow through, quick, kind of sell off here, I'll be gone. But stocks like IBM and Amazon, if you're an investor, I think you could sell short those stocks and kind of allow some time to work for you. Hi guys, this is Mark Shawson, the Pattern Trader. Just wrapped up another great session of the Master Pattern Trader a few hours ago. It was a very lively discussion. Talked about a lot about the US dollar. It looks like we're about to renew the long-term primary uptrend in the US dollar, primarily against the euro and the Australian dollar. We talked about the stock market. Looks like there's a short-term top that's looming. There are certain stocks that are flashing some warning signs, notably Amazon and IBM. We also talked about gold and silver. I've been saying for a few weeks that it looks heavy in those markets, and those markets are likely to start trending sideways to lower over time. And as usual, I dispensed my prognosis based on the chart action, technical analysis price of a host of FX markets and stock markets. At some point, somebody asked about the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen. And instead of dispensing my opinion, I just threw it out to the viewers as to what they thought about it. And we got a lot of comments, and it just indicates that not all people see the same picture the same way. So just going to read out a few. Let's see. So we were talking about the Australian dollar versus Japanese yen. Where do you think it's headed now based on the long-term weekly chart? Virgil said it's going to be big down. Solid said it's already broken support. It's going down. Kyle said it's eventually down, but could go up in the near term. David said there's a neckline on a head and shoulders. So, everybody sees something different. Roberto says it's seeing some support. Calvin said there's a bullish weekly key reversal on an ascending line. So again, quite a diversity of opinion, and you can tune in to see what my analysis was, along with my analysis on a number of different FX and stock instruments. So if you haven't already attended the Master Pattern Trader, I encourage you to do so, and I hope you have a healthy and prosperous trading day, and I'll see you next time.